This is the Savvy Investor Podcast. Hey there, Savvy Investors. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Savvy Investor Podcast, where we discuss all things real estate investing, help provide invaluable market insights and expert advice to help support you to live the savvy life. I'm your host, Mike Pondy, founder of Savvy Investor and longtime Canadian real estate investor. And today's podcast is really a fun one. It really, really is. The energy of this podcast was great. And it's all about juggling. Yeah, and I'm not talking about juggling of balls. I'm not talking about juggling of bowling ball pins or any of that stuff. I'm talking about juggling of life. I think you guys all know what I'm saying. It's knowing, it's really juggling kids, career, spouse, hobbies, but at the same time, still trying to juggle the ambitions of wanting that better life as well. I think that kind of maybe resonates with everybody. And this can be really, really, really hard. And as I said earlier, resonation, that this was one that's really sensitive to me. I remember myself working as a full-time career and trying this whole kind of real estate investing thing as a side hustle. And man, so flippin' tough. Honestly, it was really, really hard. I'm sure many of you may be feeling this right now is how do I juggle all of this, but also wanting to strive to be either a successful real estate investor or entrepreneur? It's a lot. The demands are extremely high. And so it isn't an easy task. So with that being said, even myself, I still struggle with this. It's about trying to create that balance of living a great life, but at the same time, that ambition of success. I love my job as a real estate investor, but how do we ensure that the sacrifices that we are making within our own business are not impacting why we are doing this to begin with? Again, we're doing this for our kids, our spouse, more time, more freedom, but is it doing the opposite? Is this resonating with anybody? I'm not sure. But in this episode, we are very, very fortunate to interview real estate investor, speaker, author, and also get this, emergency physician, Dr. Lindsey Duguet, to this podcast. She has an awesome story, an amazing story about how a busy doctor, mother of 3 kids, wife, began investing in real estate in 2019 and scaling her business from 0 properties to over 500 units. And she's actively participating as a physician today. So juggling both aspects of things. So talk about an undertaking. And honestly, it's a great episode on how the heck she balances it all out, but still has the drive to grow and succeed. So in this episode, in this podcast, we're talking about managing being a full-time doctor and real estate investor. Again, not an easy task. Tackling the I have no time barrier for personal investment of ourselves. She also talks a little bit about how she fast-tracked her business, her real estate investing business, and growing without sacrificing her career. And I'm sure this can be resonating with a lot of people too. The tough lessons that she's learned through her investing journey, which are some big ones. And then even for her, it was about shifting some focus from different investment strategies. So this really is an excellent episode. And it is one that I'm sure will be very impactful for all real estate investors that are really trying to strive to make this real estate investing thing work and make it more than just a side hobby, but more of a full-time career. And that's what they've done. I really think you're going to enjoy this podcast. So make sure that you listen it to the very, very end. So before we jump in, we'd like to highlight this episode's sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by our Savvy Investor Trusted Partner, the Elements Group. Is your investment plan not meeting your financial goals? Maybe instead of changing the goal, you need a better plan by bringing on the Elements Group. The Elements Group, run by founder Lisa L., offers real estate investors like you the peace of mind that comes from utilizing their full team approach to financial coaching, holistic financial planning, and managing your entire financial picture, not just your portfolio. They pride themselves on offering the following services to real estate investors and business owners alike: financial and retirement planning, tax planning and tax services, accounting and bookkeeping services, just to mention a few. So if you are looking for assistance with building your personal or business financial plan, reach out to the Elements Group to book a consultation and to learn how they can help achieving your goals get back on track. To learn more or to connect with the Elements Group, go to their website at wealthaccelerator.ca or by checking out the show notes. Welcome, everybody. Got another great episode with the Savvy Investor Podcast. we're in for a little bit of a treat all the way from Pennsylvania. Dr. Lindsey Duguet is joining us. She has got an incredible journey for those that don't know about her, but it is a really, really interesting story where in 5 years, she's gone from 0 properties to 500 units in 5 years. Pretty cool. Pretty interesting. And here's the best part. She is a doctor as well and being able to do this. So for those of us that are always challenged, like, I don't have any time for this, this is where all the lessons are going to be learned. Lindsey, thank you. Thank you for doing this, coming out. Like I said, I know you're in the middle of your day with working. So hopefully your boss is not watching this because you might get in trouble. I'm just joking, right? So, but really, thank you for coming out here and being willing to share with our savvy investor community.
No, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, this is the one and only podcast I'm ever going to be doing in the locker room here at work. I got kicked out of my office because we're interviewing some other positions. So here we are.
You know what? I think it's kind of, you might, this might be the new set for you, actually. This might be kind of
yeah,
neat.
I don't know.
Right?
It's not the best lighting in here, so apologize.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank goodness this is a podcast for audio. So you're not going to be really seeing it, except for those that are watching it on YouTube, of course. But anyway. So honestly, great to have you here. It's really fantastic. For those that don't know Lindsey, definitely go check her out. We'll reference some links at the very end of things. But at the same time, she was also interviewed on the Bigger Pockets podcast as well. Great interview. And part of the things
we'll 836. Check it out.
Number 836. You guys all heard it here. Um, so Lindsey, you know what? It's kind of funny. It's I was reading a little bit about your bio and just kind of been following you, and it's been really interesting journey. And I think for a lot of people, we think about like a doctor like yourself, and you spend all that time going to school, university. It's like the ideal job, making lots of money. And I don't know if that's the case, but I would assume it is. But truthfully, you've got that kind of that success that comes along with this, but then you become a real estate investor, which is kind of interesting too. So maybe you don't mind sharing with our community, a little bit about yourself, obviously, and just talk us through kind of what got you to where you're at today, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely not a typical traditional journey by any means. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, doctor, lawyer, dentist, engineer, those are kind of the key jobs, which I accomplished. It takes 11 years in the US to become an emergency medicine physician, 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of college, medical school. And then residency on top of that. So it's a long journey. You think you'd be happy and complacent with life at that point once you're an attending physician, but not myself. So once I became an attending physician, my husband and I were trying to figure out how we're going to grow our money and our wealth. And we read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is the gateway book for very, very many people.
Absolutely.
Nice purple book.
Yep.
Not unlike your background there.
Not far from it. I wish I was part of the bigger.
Yeah.
I was part of Rich Dad Poor Dad, but not yet. Maybe one day we'll see. But
yeah, right. So yeah, we read that and we're like, hey, this makes sense. It talks about passive investing and making your money work for you. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. So decided to jump in and get our hands and feet dirty, quite literally, right away. We went to a 3-day seminar. We started going to local meetups, just like everybody says, which I strongly suggest too, just as a side note. But we got our first 2 properties off market, and they were just absolute dumpster fires. Essentially, it was the term we use in the emergency department, meaning it's not good. Okay. These things, they had the pipe cuts, waters. It was just absolutely a disaster. Not like HGTV, like fix and flips, back taxes, you name it. We had to work through it. And I don't know, I guess too much grit or too stupid to give up. So we ended up burning those properties, and we worked our way up from there. I started doing some direct mail campaigns. Then we joined some other masterminds groups. Your network is your net worth is not just a saying, it's absolutely true. So that's really where we kind of started to grow. And now we have, like you mentioned, we just crossed the 550 unit mark. We're active on all of those. Some are joint venture deals with just very, very small groups of partners. Some are syndications. We have a lot of out of country investors that join us as LPs too. So, obviously I know this podcast is in Canada, but just because you're not a US citizen or living in the US doesn't mean you can't invest in some really well-placed assets in the US. And my husband's from France. He moved here almost 14 years ago. His whole family still lives over there. Wow. They've gotten interested in the real estate investing as well, as we kind of have been successful in this. A lot of work, a lot of determination, but it's been fun, and we're just starting. 5 years sounds like a long time, but man, I can still smell that first house opening the door.
I like that because I can still smell mine too, to be honest with you. It's still kind of stained my skin or something. But yeah, it's just one of those ones, right? You remember you always remember your first, right? And you're like, man,
Yeah,
you think about it now, like, why the hell did I do that? Just joking. Anyway, it's part of the learning process, right, Lindsay? It's part of the learning process, right? Awesome. So, you kind of shared a little bit about your how you kind of got started and what you've done. What maybe you can highlight a little bit about, have you changed different strategies? What's the strategy that you're focusing on? Some of the things you referenced is a little bit of like the burst strategy. I'm not sure if that's still in the place, and maybe just kind of lead us how what were some of the key steps? If you did pivot, what were some of those pivoting moments and why?
Yeah, we've changed a lot, but our basic philosophy and tenets, we're still true to that
Yeah.
today. By how we've changed, we started with just single family row homes, a
Mhm.
duplex, a quad. So those were, in the U.S. 1 to 4 units. That's still considered single family. You can only force appreciation so much, and it's not going to be based on your net
Yeah,
operating
exactly.
income. We got in trouble with that on one of our 4 units. We didn't pull out quite as much as we wanted to because they based it on other comps down the street, which were not brand new builds like we
Shoot.
had. So
Yeah.
um, so we did the burst strategy for all of those. We didn't get into any type of out of state investment or any type of partnership until we hit our 22 unit mark. And we were growing, and we had done that in just about 2 years, but we weren't growing as much as we wanted. And again, we read Rich Dad Poor Dad. It sounded passive, right? None of this was passive. Like my husband was changing sewer pipes, digging holes by hand. This guy
Uh,
was a mechanical engineer by background. Like he came from France. He owns a fancy dress shirt company. Like this is not a guy who ever thought he'd be living in Pennsylvania changing
so
sewer
funny.
pipes, right?
Yeah.
So, and we did it because we were doing everything ourselves. We didn't have systems in place. So that has been a huge thing to leverage other people's time, knowledge, and money for syndications and joint ventures, that we don't have to do everything ourselves, nor should we. I am good at very certain things that my husband is not good at. He is good at underwriting. That is not my forte. Like again, he's the Excel sheet numbers guy. So we're really finding partners and have made great relationships with other people who have the same common goal of growing money for ourselves
Yeah.
and others in safe assets and create generational wealth. But we want other partners on our team who bring things that we don't have or we're not the
Yeah.
best with.
Yeah, very cool. Love it. So, it's great, and you're touching all the hot spots of everybody that's listening to this, because we all resonate exactly to what you've said is what we're trying to accomplish in our lives. Now, it's kind of interesting, you being a doctor and what you've been doing. What was kind of your main objective to getting in real estate investing? Was it cash flow? Was it just parking it somewhere? Like, did you have a vision for yourself of being to where you're at today, or how did you always did? Is that right?
Yeah. We had a when we started, we had a 5 year goal on our vision board that we would be financially free through passive investments from real
Right.
estate in 5 years. And by the books, by the numbers, we are. However, everything that we're making on it. So if something would happen with my job, we're okay to pay the bills from our real estate, but we are not paying ourselves at all. Every single dollar we've gotten from any refinance, every single dollar from any leftover cash flow, it's going right into other real estate investments, or it's going into
Mm,
increasing the property value for capex for all our commercial 5+ unit buildings, so that we can do more refis and get more money out. So we're still in the snowball, the growth stage. Even though again, by paper, by definition, we are quote
financially free. Yeah.
financially free. So that was the main goal all along. So we're very happy with how we've gotten that way. So when we started, our goal really was for cash flow. We wanted to have money coming in that would replace the salary and the bills that we needed to cover our own personal expenses. As we are growing, we have also discovered the power of looking for areas that are going to appreciate more. Our first couple units, the first four, were in
Mm,
D class neighborhoods. I will never buy, I mean, never say never, but I will be very surprised if I buy in a D class area again. They did
mhm,
have great cash
mhm.
flow, but they came
Oh,
with
yes,
a
they
lot
do.
of problems. Both houses on the left and the right of the one, they were abandoned. Another one it was basically being used as a drug house. So tenants were
Yeah,
complaining about people, up all night, police being called. I mean, they were a mess. And we screened our tenants very well. We have, certain set of criteria that we
yeah,
haven't deviated from, but even if you get good tenants, they're not going to want to stay in those areas, just
so
because
true.
of the surrounding. And you can make a house pretty, you can put lipstick on the pig, but you can't change the neighborhood. So That strategy has definitely changed. We're really looking at the C plus house in commercial now,
Yeah.
C plus in a B neighborhood. We've been even started to, we closed on two A class complexes in Springfield, Missouri at the end of 2023.
Mhm.
All the buildings we buy, we still look for value add. Even the one 72 unit, it was built in 2023. So you think, well,
Mhm.
what kind of value add can you do there? It's a brand new build, right?
Yeah,
Well, the
exactly.
value add was that the builder was the owner, and he just started putting people in to fill it up to sell it, but they were still under market rent, right? So our value add for that is to now raise them to market rents, and it was only 70% occupied when we bought it. It's now 100%. So where our plan is to take that to agency debt at the 13-month mark. So we're about halfway there. So we have plans for every property we get for some type of value add.
Yeah.
Some are bigger than others. Some are like our one of our best deals to date was a 10 unit, and we took two units that were completely offline being used as storage units with like literal rubble and dirt for floors, and then we rebuilt those with bank financing, and we ended up getting 275% of our money out. It was a $301,000 tax-free refi check, which again we just rolled into other properties. So
So funny. And they say that there's no deals out there, right? There's deals. You just gotta go hunting for them, right? So,
there
yeah,
are
agreed.
deals. They're harder to find right now for sure. When Michael and I started 5 years ago, we passed up so many deals because we thought, oh, $1 million
Yeah,
property, there's no way we can afford that. Well, yeah, we can ourselves, but we didn't understand the
yeah.
power of having partners to do deals with. So I wish, hindsight's always 2020. I wish we had the partners back then that we do now. We'd be in
Shoulda, coulda,
a
woulda, right?
even
It's
bigger
just one
ball
of those
game, but
things, but that's part of the it's part of the journey that we all
yeah,
live, right?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's funny because you're talking about like D markets, and it's funny. I talk to a lot of my students as well, and they're just like, "What do you think about this area and this market?" I'm like, "What you exactly said is you can never change the area. You can change the property all you want, but really ask yourself: Is your ideal tenant profile wanting to live there? Would you live there, right?" And it's funny, and myself, people will ask me, "Have I ever invested in like a D market?" And I have, and I've made a crap load of money in it. But the headaches and challenges that come along and the text exact I was laughing because I remember one of my properties that was just awful. Like it's just awful. We made a lot of money, but I'm so happy we sold it. Is police came over again for this. The police like it was like every second or third day. And I'm like, oh my God, like seriously, the amount of work, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were cash
Yeah.
flowing over like $500 a month, even on the lower end ones there. But yeah, the headaches, and they were our farthest ones away at that time.
Yeah.
They were an hour away, so my husband was
Oh,
like driving in the middle of like
not
this
fun,
bad
not
area.
fun.
It's not
Yeah,
ideal. So
it's
yeah,
exactly that is,
we're not
you
doing
always
that
think it's a
anymore.
good idea, especially when the prices look so attractive, but trust me, sometimes it's just so frustrating. And I'm with you. Like for me, our strategies are pretty much aligned. I like C plus buildings in B areas, like B minus B areas. To me, that's the strategy that we love to play. It works all day long, and it can be very, very beneficial. And again, just remember, look at the tenant profile. Is that the tenant profile that you really want in your building? And you drive there during the day. That's one thing. Go drive there at nighttime and see if you're comfortable walking around the neighborhood. And if the answer is no, yeah.
Oh yeah, we
Oh God, right?
send him into the property. I'm like, okay, I still have my W-2, Michael. You get out and go look at it. I'm gonna sit in the
That's
car.
so funny. So, it's kind of interesting. Us Canucks up here, we're seeing a lot of people going down to the States to invest, obviously. And there's lots of reasons for that is there's lots of rent control. I don't know if you guys deal with a lot of that stuff out here. Lots of limitations. Yeah. So it's like,
State and county dependent, but yeah,
yeah,
we invest
exactly.
in
And so I
areas
think,
that are not so
what,
much.
I'm not sure about some of the markets, obviously you're from Pennsylvania. Are you investing in a lot of different markets? Maybe you could just highlight a little bit about where you're investing. Is it just strictly multifamily that you're focusing on or?
Yeah, we are. That's a great question. Yeah, so as of right now, all of our properties are east of the Mississippi. So we're in Missouri, we're in Kansas, we're in South Carolina, we're in Indiana, and then obviously
Wow.
Pennsylvania. We're investing heavily there. Um, we still own some of those initial properties. We have some single family lake houses. Again, they're pretty much on autopilot right now. They're within an hour of where we
Nice.
live. So if there's something, my husband he is doing the property management. But again, they're pretty much on autopilot. We spent a lot of money on the capex to get them. They're pretty good. We don't have, knock on wood, very many problems with those right now. I knock on wood very loudly, but We're also got into the industrial space about a year ago, and both of those properties are in Pennsylvania. And you mentioned about not being able to find deals as easy, and that is very true. We love multifamily. We are still buying multifamily. We're very much actively looking. Michael is underwriting all the time, like every single day, properties for multifamily. But they are harder to make the numbers work right now because everybody knows interest rates have gone up, cap rates have compressed. They're starting to expand a little bit, which is a good thing. But it's just harder to get that cash flow, especially for the syndications and the investors. You know, they want 6 to 10% cash on
Yeah,
cash.
that's tough.
It's harder to get right now versus industrial. I mean, it's just unbelievable the numbers that we can get to
Yeah.
work with that. So we have a 23 unit flex warehouse that was built ground up from with construction. And right now we're under contract for 265,000 square foot industrial, which has an additional 20,000
Wow.
square foot commercial office space that's fully rented. It's cash flows from day one without any value add added to it. So we're very excited for that deal. And that actually, ironically, happens to be in the little town my husband and I got married in 7.5 years ago. So it's funny if somebody told us on our wedding day, "Oh yeah, in 7.5 years you're going to be buying that like huge industrial complex a block away," I'd be like, "What?" This is before we got into real estate. I've been like, "That's not possible. I'm a doctor." Like,
Real estate. What are
it's
you
not
talking
happening.
about? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's a bit.
Catholic
Doctors don't do
Catholics
that.
don't do that.
They've done all the stuff they need to do, right?
Exactly.
That's funny. Yeah, that's good. It's actually kind of funny. Like I look at our community here up in Canada, and actually down in the States because we got people that are part of our group as well. But again, the amount of people that are doctors and dentists and nurses, and it's amazing, right? It's amazing to see people looking for different ways to utilize the capital that they've made to reinvest it, and that's the right thing to do, right? So very cool. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm not anti-stock by any means. I have my 401, my 403, my 457 through work. I have
Yeah.
529s for my kids. But you know, real estate is really a great
Oh God, yeah,
tax benefit for us, especially since my husband has real estate professional status
yeah,
in the U.S. here.
yeah,
He manages everything. This
yeah.
is his full-time job now, so there are a lot of
Oh,
great tax
100%.
benefits to it.
100%, 100%. I think you guys get more than we do up here, but well, we'll take what we can get. That's the truth of it, right? Yeah, we might have to come on over there, right? So, so I was going to ask you. So I think you touched on it a little bit, but I'd love to kind of hear your perspective of it. You know, for yourself, you know, you've scaled your business, a lot of lessons learned, I'm sure, by over the 5 years of doing this. But to move from 0 to 500 unit, that's a lot. And with that being said, um, have you kind of really narrowed in what you look for in an ideal investment property? And let's just stay. As much as I want to hear more about the industrial side, I think for a lot of people they want to hear a little bit about the multifamily side. What are some of the things that you look for? You know, being a doctor, and at the same time, what are some of the key things you're paying attention to in a multifamily property that's important to you to maybe proceed with a potential deal?
Yeah. So there's the property itself, which obviously there's a lot of learning points and things to look out for at the property. But I have, and my husband and I, we've had many conversations about this and throughout the deals. You really need to look at the team. The operators are,
Mm,
I would say, even more important than the property itself sometimes because we have
interesting.
seen some other people we know that the property looked great on, and the property itself it was a great property, but then the team, either they were a new team or they didn't have the same ethics or business plan overall, and they take this good property and then they don't execute on the business plan because of arguments or this that and the other thing, and then the property ends up not doing well, and I've seen that time and time again through other different teams. So you really cannot put a number on the team. You really need to look at the partners that you're working with because it's really a marriage. I mean, it's
Yeah,
unlikely that you're going to buy and flip a property like a big syndication or, you know,
yeah, it's
40
true.
100 unit in a year. You're married
Yeah,
to these people. Even if your plan is to refi at year 3 or 4, you still own the property. You still have to make it worth till your projected sale at year 8, 9, 10, whatever it is. So the team is so important. So if you're coming on as a limited partner, you really need to evaluate the team. I mean, this is your very hard earned money that you're
yeah,
handing over to operators and trusting them that they are going to stick to their business plan, and you're trusting them that they did do their market research and that they did triple check and stress test their underwriting numbers. And
yeah.
You need to really, really look at the team and their background and their track record.
Yeah, great advice, especially up here. We're seeing a lot of some challenges out this way as well
Mhm.
because it's been tough. It's been really really tough in some of the markets. We're seeing some properties depreciate, so they're trying to refinance and they're just not getting
Mhm.
the numbers that they were once
Yep.
getting
Yep.
before. And so some of these things that are private lending, I'm sure you guys do a lot of that down in the states as well as
Yep.
promissory notes and all sorts of stuff
Yep.
that happens down there or up here anyway. It's just they just can't fulfill it. It's a
Yep.
real challenging time, and I think for a lot of investors that are looking to invest their hard-earned capital into a deal from my perspective is you should know real estate investing. You shouldn't just be basing
Yep.
on trust. You should understand it.
Yep.
To go to your point is, do they actually know what the hell they're talking about, to be very clear, and does it really make sense, their investment deal, right? So
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So we're very careful about who we're partnering with, and we've really narrowed down that
yeah,
pool too. And then for the property itself, partners aside, we are always looking at we're stress testing the numbers on multiple ways. Okay, if the interest rate does
yeah,
not come down, or if it does go up, or the cap rates don't
very good.
go up more than or like, compress more than what you're hoping for, is the number still going to work? Are you still going to be able to refi? I mean, you mentioned you're not private money is coming due and all that kind of stuff. Um, are you still going to cash flow? Are you still going to make the numbers work for what you have? So that's very important. We're always looking at, I mean, how do you increase the value of a building, right? You increase rent or increase income and you decrease expenses. That's how you get the NOI up. That's how you go back to the bank and that's how you pull your money out so you can keep the property if you want that, versus proving to the next seller, hey, this is what you can do, and selling it not just on pro forma, but on your actuals, right? So we're looking at, can we put in coin-based operating machines? Are they implementing pet fees? If not, do we want to consider small pets? Because there's a lot of people. I'm a crazy animal person. Like I always wanted to look for places when I was in college and med school that I could rent, right, with my pets. So can you implement that? If you're in a busier area with not much off-street parking, can you charge 50, $100 for a parking space? There's a lot of things outside of just increasing the rent that you could do to a property, and some people don't think about that. And then how can you decrease expenses? One of the properties that we bought, we were using a third party property management, and that's another thing. We stay away from that. We basically property manage with our own in house teams now. But yeah, it's a whole other conversation. But before we did that, the property management company that we were using, they had three different like landscapers on the payroll, um, they were just overcharging everything. They were charging like $1,500 to clean the carpets when it's like $100. I mean, it was disgusting when we look back through that kind of stuff. So where can you decrease your expenses? We actually got our expenses once we went in house 50% less than what the third party was. That was substantial. That's adding like millions of dollars onto the building. I mean, it's insane. So yeah, where are you going to decrease your expenses? Where are you going to increase your income? So
Multifamily 101, guys. This is it. You're listening to it point blank, point blank. Pay very close attention. So I think you touched a little bit about some of the things you've been doing with other real estate experts that are you're technically investing with these individuals and doing your due diligence on them, but you have people also investing with you guys as well. Am I correct in saying that? So um, maybe walk us through that part of that transition. I would imagine you started just like a lot of people. You started with your own capital. Um, as you're continuing to generate more capital, you're probably still reinvesting, but to really scale, you're going to need to learn how to raise money. So maybe you can highlight, what was your transition? What was your aha moment there? And what have you learned from raising capital, working with other people?
yeah, so I started capital raising by accident. One of our partners came to us for a deal that they had in South Carolina, and they said, "Hey, we're just a couple $100,000 away from our full raise. Do you want to see if anybody wants to go in on this property?" Because he knew that we were interested. So I was like, "I don't know. I guess I'll see if anybody wants to." And everybody at my work knows I'm doing real estate by this point. I mean, they've seen us
Yeah.
do our properties on our own. They've seen us make money, so they realize, okay, we're not just crazy people who want to get into real estate, and we don't know what we're doing at this point anyway. So I ended up raising. It was just over $400,000 on that first deal, and
Amazing.
the minimum was 50,000, which pretty much everybody did the minimum for that. So we had just, I think it ended up being 10 people, and we put our It's another thing. We any deal that we are raising for or GPs on, we put our own money into. You want to make sure your operators have skin in the game.
Mhm.
I think ethically that's right. But anyway, that kind of ended up being a snowball effect too, because then we found another deal to be GPs on, and a capital raised on that, and that was $1 million, and then 1.5, and then it was another like 400, another 500. So I raised. I mean, I have not counted in a little bit, but it's close to like $5 million now that I've raised in about 2 years for various projects, and a lot of that comes through. So I mean, there's trust, right? I mean, people that I
Number
work with,
one.
they know me as a physician, they know how I work, they know that I am a hard worker, and they have seen again that the money that we have made on the other deals in the past. So
Yeah.
I didn't ever think I would be a capital raiser or money raiser, but here I am doing that too. But it's also the fun part about educating other people too. I mean, I
It is.
joke that doctors don't know about real estate investing, but it's true. They really don't. We're taught about stocks. We're not taught about investing in real estate whatsoever. So I truly like educating people now. I'm holding my own meetups that I never thought I'd be the one speaking with a microphone, like talking to people in person. So we're doing that. You know, we wrote these two books. My business partner and I. We're starting our mentorship. April 1st it launches. So
Awesome.
I love to teach other people. I love to go
Love
on
it.
podcasts too and
Love
talk
it on
about it.
podcasts, right? Right. Bigger pockets. Just wait until you get into the Savvy Investor
Yeah, yeah,
podcast, right?
right,
Whatever,
exactly.
right? Okay, so that's amazing stuff. Love it. Love that. Love the capital raising side. It's just, it is part of the business. It's just what it is. And you have to kind of make sure, to me, one of the most rewarding parts, honestly, I love the educational side. I do. I really love it. But there is nothing more rewarding than giving them the check and saying, here you go. And this happens. I don't know about yourself, more to
So
me than
then,
than
yeah,
than
make
than
it
I
work
ever
for me
anticipated is
again. Yes,
I don't
exactly.
want that
Yep.
money back. Why are you giving me that? They want to give it back to you. Get back. Mike, get your ass out there and go make that happen again, please. Thank you very much. Right. And that's one of the beautiful parts about having relationships. And so for myself, this is the way I always preach it is, it's about finding quality relationships and people that have got high net worth and that, and you don't want 1,000 partners, keep it really simple. Have that money over and over again, very similar to it sounds like what you're doing as well is just that rinse and repeat model, right? Um so one of the things that I'm sure a lot of people are listening to this and they're struggling with this and they're like, okay, I can't imagine, how busy Lindsey is. She's a doctor, still working, and an investor, and go check out her kids. Very, very cute on her Instagram page. Very cute kids. Your mom, wife with kids. How do you juggle this? Because I know for a lot of us, it's a challenge. Is this work-life balance, and you're doing some amazing things in this real estate world, and so I think this one could probably resonate with a lot of people's. How do you balance life and work and everything that you're doing right now?
And the true answer is, and people throw that term work life balance around, and I don't
Yeah,
always
it's
have
true.
balance, and that's the absolute truth. I'm learning still how to get balance. Some days I don't touch
Yeah,
my real estate email for a solid 12 hours because I'm just at the hospital. It's busy, taking care of patients. Some days we have a lot of kids activities and sports games, so I'm only able to do a couple of real estate emails or one or two investor calls or this, that, or the other thing. And sometimes it's just full on real estate for that entire day, property tours. So each day is different,
yeah,
each week is different. You have to be able to compartmentalize and focus on the most important thing at that moment. I'm very I have my paper notebook, so my organizational skills are good in that regard. At the beginning of the week, I look to see, okay, what time segment do I want to work on this book? I put out all my investor calls and everything like that. What shifts am I working clinical? What administrative meetings do I have? And obviously, sometimes things get shifted around, but I try to be as organized as possible. I work out a lot. I do the Peloton pretty much every single day. I do at least a 20-minute bike ride on that. So that if I'm having a bad day from the kids or real estate or a tenant or whatever, like I just go try to beat a personal record. And that definitely helps my sanity. And my husband's happy that I'm not yelling at him. So I mean, joking aside from my husband,
uh,
he is phenomenal. I mean, he is one of my big, that book, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Like, he is a who not how, right? I mean, he does work, quote, from home, from our real estate. Like, his
yeah,
schedule,
great book.
because he is his own boss for our company, allows it to be flexible around my schedule and that. So It's good. We make it work, and some days are hard, but
I heard from that, and this is for all our husbands out there. Get your wife at Peloton. She won't yell at you.
I need to reach out to Peloton. If anybody
Yeah.
mentions this podcast, give me like $100 off some workout equipment
Okay.
or something.
Peloton. There you go. Right. So
Not the first time I mentioned it on a podcast too. So yeah, they're probably making some money off me.
oh, that's awesome. So very good. So what's kind of what do you see yourself 2024? I think for a lot of people, myself included, I'm very bullish. I think it's going to be a great year. I'm very excited. I think there's lots of awesome things. What are you seeing for yourself and your company, Lindsey? What are your guys' plans for this coming year
Yeah,
from a real estate perspective?
yeah, we're seeing the market shift a little bit. We're definitely noticing that cap rates. I mean, it's still market depending, but in general, we're seeing more brokers come with pocket listings saying, "Hey, this has been on the market for a year. The seller's more motivated. They're not getting, the inflated price that people were fighting over 2 years ago." So the numbers per unit are coming down overall, which is really good.
Mhm.
But at the same time, the build price is up, so you're not getting as many properties built. So a lot of these, like the last place that we bought in Springfield, Missouri, we got it for almost $45,000 off the new build price, even though it
Nice.
had been built just a year before, not the 2023 one, but another one. So we're excited about it. We're seeing the numbers start to move in the direction we want, where they're quote more affordable, meaning we can get better returns for our investors, and everybody's happy.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Love it. Like I think I said, I think everybody's feeling a little bit bullish. It's exciting. I still think there's
Yeah,
lots of opportunities out there, guys. You just have to go
there
out and
are.
hunt
Yep.
it. And like I said, it's great. This is fantastic. So I always like to kind of end our podcast with kind of words of wisdom from our seasoned investors and our guests, because again, from 0 to 500 in 5 years, I'm sure there's maybe one, maybe two lessons learned that you could share with our community. If you went to talk to maybe a newbie investor, a seasoned investor, doesn't matter each way, what's one bit of advice you would be happy to share with our community?
The biggest piece of advice I can give anybody is just start. Like, don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Just go out and start. Don't be afraid. You're going to get turned down many times. The very first time I called a broker after that 3-day seminar, I was so excited, and they literally said, "I don't have time for you," because I was honest. I said, I have not a single unit that I own. 5 years later, here we are. So just get out and just start. We submitted multiple offers before we got our first property. So a lot of times, and I've heard this from many people, the first one is the hardest one. And then the compounding effect with anything in life, the more consistent you are with calling or submitted offers or underwriting, you're going to get better at it. So just start. The second piece of advice I would give anybody is really work on your network. We have gotten so many deals just off market, basically all our deals except for one. I got one duplex after our first two single units that were on the MLS. Everything else is through word of mouth, because we're out there, we're talking to people about what we do. We're annoying brokers saying, "What do you have?" and we're giving them underwriting back, even if the list price is $2 million and our underwriting comes in at 950. We're responsive and we tell them why we can't pay the list price. And we've had brokers come back 6 months later saying, "Hey, yeah, it still didn't sell. Do you want to renegotiate and see where we're at?" So get around people, start talking, go to meetups, and find a mentor if you can. Seriously, I wish we had started at the beginning. Our first properties, we paid a contractor upfront cash with no contract. Like, if we had a mentor, they would have said, "Don't do that. That's stupid." Well, we didn't have a mentor, right? Like, you don't know what you don't know in so many areas of life and investing or anything. So please find a mentor or some type of group to join. They can be free. Just get around other people that are doing it, and some people that are doing it longer than you. You can always learn. I'm learning and forgetting things every single day.
Yeah. Lots of words of wisdom. And I still think get yourself a Peloton. By the time this thing gets aired, Lindsey should have a coupon code that we'll put in the description. I'm joking.
Right. I just
So
beat my 30-minute PR this week too.
there you go. Awesome. So Lindsey, if people wanted to kind of connect with you, to learn about you, like I said, where's the best place to go? And we can talk about your book as well for a second too.
Oh yeah, my Lauren Zaminsky and I. She's a phenomenal person. Her husband's actually an ER doctor too. They live in California. We wrote a book together, two of them actually. It's Real Estate Investing Unlocked: Real Stories from Women on Their Path to Passive Income and Financial Freedom.
Love it.
And there's a male version too. they're completely different content. It's 6 stories from very, very successful women in real estate and 16 stories from successful men too. So we have a lot of great content in there. Those were both published in January, and we're working on with our mentor too another book called Attracting Capital. That should be out in May. But aside from that, I'm very active on social media. On Facebook, I'm the only Lindsey Duguet, Duguet out there, unless somebody makes a fake account for me after this. So you can find me there, direct message me. I'm very responsive. On Instagram, it's at Doc Duguet. Our personal website, my husband and I, it's called cloverkeycapital.com. That's where you can sign up for our newsletter that we send out sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly. It talks about new deals that we have too that you can invest with us. And then also with my partner, Lauren, we are launching our own mentorship program on April 1st. And that is
Nice.
called Mind Shift, the number 2 millions.com. And we named it Mind Shift because mindset is so, so, so important to be successful in anything.
Love it. Totally agree with you. Well, we'll add those links at the very bottom of the description in the YouTube channel, as well as on the podcast as well, for everybody to kind of reference and review. And definitely check out our book. I think it's going to be available. Is it on Amazon right now, or
It
where
is,
is it
yep,
located?
they're on Amazon. Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. So guys, thanks. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know I did. It's just great to connect. Lindsey, thanks for doing this. This is great. Hopefully we can get you back on again when you're by, at your maybe 1,000th unit by the end of this year. Is that
There
sound
we go.
about right?
Yeah, who knows when that's
Is that
going
right?
to be? Yeah, exactly. We'll see how 2024 goes with my optimism here.
Sounds great. Well, I appreciate you jumping on. Thanks everybody for checking out this episode. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye.
The views and advice expressed on this podcast episode are solely those of the individuals participating and do not necessarily reflect the opinions or beliefs of the podcast host, its producers, or affiliated parties. All content shared is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as professional, financial, legal, or investment advice. Listeners and viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own research and consult with qualified professionals such as financial advisors, lawyers, and accountants before making any financial decisions or investments based on the information provided in this podcast or any related content. The podcast host and producers disclaim any responsibility for any actions taken by listeners as a result of information presented in this episode. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.